I want to tell you guys a little bit about Chat GPT. If you're interested or fascinated by futuristic artificial intelligence type shit, definitely stay tuned for this segment right here. Chat GPT is an open artificial intelligence free-to-use program developed by a company by the name of OpenAI, which is an artificial intelligence research lab founded by Sam Altman and Elon Musk. Those of you who follow Elon may know that based on some of his debates and discussions, he has strong reservations about other people and companies myopically pursuing artificial intelligence without regard to specific regulations or structures and safeguards around it, because his claim to fame is once that genie is out of the bottle, there's no getting it back in. Other brilliant thinkers of our day, like Sam Harris, for example, also share that reservation, if I'm not mistaken. And then on the flip side, other, again, brilliant thinkers of our day, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, is much more laxed in his views towards AI, in that he believes it'll just become a tool like any other type of technology that has been introduced to humanity. There's actually a really good panel discussion that included all of them and a few other people as well that I'll try to dig up that I remember seeing, feels like more than a year ago, but I'll see if I can look that up. But if not, you guys might be able to find it. Me personally, I categorize this under fascinating, futuristic type shit. And yes, that is a technical term. But yeah, this company, OpenAI, its mission is to ensure that, quote, artificial general intelligence, AGI, by which we mean highly autonomous systems that outperform humans at most economically valuable work, benefits all of humanity. And for our sake, I hope there truly are individuals that buy into and believe and actually mean that the sentiment behind that mission. Because like right away when I start thinking about AI and stuff like that, I start thinking about Vicky from iRobot, for example, and how shit could very easily go left once folks start giving up more and more in exchange for convenience. But now going back to Chat GPT. In 2019, Microsoft invested $1 billion with a B dollars in OpenAI for an exclusive multi-year partnership. Their aim is to build artificial general intelligence and supercomputing technologies. It's currently free to use, but may be monetized in the future. And I would add to that stating and reminding that whenever we are using a free platform like a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter, etc., you, me, the user, are the commodity, right? Our eyeballs, our attention spans is what these companies leverage to advertisers that want to get their products in front of us via these platforms to sell us their shit. So just keep that in mind. But it is absolutely true that it's currently free to use. Now, this is why Chat GPT in and of itself has been making like so many headlines, which is the fact that it reached 1 million users within 5 days of its launch, which is the fastest that any company ever has reached 1 million users. That's a big benchmark within the tech space, a big metric that folks look to evaluate a company. And just for context, it took Netflix 3.5 years to reach 1 million users. It took Facebook 10 months to reach 1 million users. It took Spotify 5 months. It took Instagram 2.5 months. And again, it took Chat GPT 5 days. Now, what exactly is Chat GPT? You can go right now, and I'll link to it in the description, the episode notes as well. But you can go right now to chat.openai.com. Sign up completely for free, and you can start using it. What you're going to see when you log in is a list of examples of what you can type in. It's like a chat screen, and it gives you a list of its capabilities just to get you started. And what you can do is write into it things like explain quantum computing in simple terms, and it'll spit out that information to you in real time. You can ask it things like, do you have any creative ideas for a 10-year-old's birthday party? It also has the ability to remember previous questions and parts of your interaction with it. So after asking for creative ideas for a 10-year-old birthday party, you can follow up and say something like, oh, I like that third idea that you gave. Could you give me something similar to that, but in a race car motif? And then it'll give you a breakdown of that. You can ask it to write computer code for you that you can then copy and paste and implement into your website. People are already saying that it's going to, just this version, this chat application of this technology is going to do away with certain copywriting jobs. I was listening to an author the other day on a podcast saying that he uses it to summarize chapters of his book. Shout out to Humble the Poet. I heard him on Brilliant Idiots recently. And he uses it to highlight chapters of his poetry, of his book, rather. And he puts it into this program and asks it to summarize it in 2,000 words or less, because those are the character limitations of Instagram. So then he'll take that summary, put it back into the program again, and then asks it to simplify the summary, and then uses that to promote different chapters of his book within social media. People are using it for sales copy, for like their merch, for example. And this is, again, just a few weeks old. I think it was in like mid or late December that it dropped. So I can only imagine how, as more users use it and it gets smarter and more intuitive, how ubiquitous something like this is going to be. I played around with it, and here is something specific to the podcast that I wanted to ask it, just to demonstrate for you guys, and I'll tell you what I got back. And also, by the way, if I ask it something right now and then you ask it the exact same thing a little bit later, it's not spitting out the same exact information to both of us. And whatever you ask it is obviously tailored to how you ask it and what specifics you include. So it's wild shit. But yeah, here is an example. I asked it, how do I promote a podcast about writing? And mind you, I've been doing this podcast since 2014. So for 8 years now. And whenever I have the chance, aside from, learning shit just from my own experiences and trial and error, I do read blogs and articles and listen to other podcasts and take some tips and tricks from them. And I have to say, a lot of what Chat GPT gave me back instantly, literally in seconds, was spot on. So here are some of the things it replied. It said, number 1, social media. Share your podcast episodes on social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Use relevant hashtags and tag other writers and writing organizations to get more visibility. 2, email newsletters. If you have an email list of subscribers, send them updates about your new episodes and encourage them to share your podcast with their own networks. 3, collaborate with other writers or writing organizations. Consider reaching out to other writers or writing organizations to see if they would be interested in collaborating on an episode or sharing your podcast with their audience. 4, guest interviews, and it breaks that down. 5, blog about your podcast. 6, join podcast directories, like submitting to popular directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, so that it can be easily discovered by new listeners. 7, invest in paid advertising, and it gives you a couple of examples there. It's pretty fucking sick, right? And it's, again, that's just from like a 1-sentence question. I could literally go back and ask it, elaborate on, number 3, or tell me more ideas about how to get guest interviews, etc., like stuff like that. What's going to be crazier, I think, and especially within like the education space, is that you can literally ask it things like, write me 500 words about the history of Native Americans in the US, and write it at an 8th grade level. Boom, you have 500 words. And it's not, again, all 30 kids in the classroom can ask it the exact same thing, and you're going to get 30 different essays, 500 word essays. I have no idea how teachers and professors now are going to deal with this type of technology actually being a thing. I mean, it's almost like they just have to accept that it's a thing. And like Neil deGrasse Tyson actually said recently in Patrick Bet-David's podcast, if you as a student decide to, just use this and, get your degree or something like that, all you're really doing is cheating yourself out of an education. And yeah, you work the system and cheated your way to a degree, but what is that really going to do for you? And as an adult, as a grown-up, I definitely get that, right? I have a different respect and perspective on education, just like learning new shit. But as a kid, as a 16-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old, putting myself back in that mentality on those days that, you forgot about a homework assignment, or you we're just fucking around and hanging out and not studying, you could give a flying fuck about an education in those specific points in time. You know what I mean? So it's going to be an interesting part of this entire AI discussion. But yeah, it's fucking sick. You can tell it, write me a business plan for a restaurant in Queens that specializes in XYZ cuisine. You can tell it, give me a spreadsheet of projected revenue for this type of business for the next 5 years. Explain the speed of light to me in language that a 5-year-old would understand. We are absolutely living in the future, folks. Interesting times. Chat GPT. Again, I will link to it in the episode notes so you guys can check it out. I know it's definitely something that I'm going to follow closely and continue to play around with. I'm definitely going to borrow from Humble the Poet's idea and try to implement it for my own marketing purposes of my books or merch, etc. But yeah, tell me what you guys think. If you have heard about this before, or even if you haven't, what other interesting ways to implement this can you think of? Again, Chat GPT. Check it out.